What's up, everybody? My name is DJ Liftoff, and welcome to this 3-part scratch series with Hercules. Now, in this scratch series, we're going to start off by covering some of the bare basics, the fundamentals of scratching. So that's really going to start with the baby scratch, but I'm going to show you a ton of things that you can do with it. I'm also going to explain why it's so important that you perfect the baby scratch and perfect just simple hand motions before you move on to more advanced scratch techniques. We're also going to be going over some beginner music theory. So when I call out things like, hey, this starts on this bar and this beat, you'll understand exactly what I mean. Following that, we're going to cover a few more scratch techniques like the chirp scratch, the transformer scratch, and I'm really going to show you how everything you learned in lesson 1 is going to go hand in hand with what we cover in lesson 2, okay? Then following that, I'm going to do a performance mix where I use some different scratch patterns, and then we'll break those scratch patterns down completely so you can use them in your own mixes. Now, before we hop right into the first lesson, let me tell you about this controller that we're going to be using in this entire scratch series. Right here, we have the DJControl Inpulse T7 Premium Edition. Now, if you're here with me in this scratch series, I'm going to guess that you're no stranger to the Hercules Inpulse T7. Now, this controller really knocks it out of the park with these motorized platters. We have our 7-inch vinyls, which are perfect as far as fitting your hand right on that vinyl. We have our dedicated stems buttons. We have our RGB pads, perfectly colorful and really easy to use. We also have cool tools like the beat match guide, the beat align, and then one of my personal favorites, we have our paddle effects on this motorized controller as well. Hercules has now taken this one step further by introducing this beautiful premium edition. Not only is it beautifully styled, it also provides some really great functionality as far as scratching. So as you can see, first you see our crossfader section is this gold plated section. Again, beautiful styling here. You also have your premium faders module. Now, what does that mean? You're really going to be able to make those fast and clean cuts easier than ever. Now, on top of that, you also see we have tons of other gold styles on this controller, starting with our auto loop here. You can see this round circle around is gold as well. We also have the gold outsides of our cue and our play button. We also have the gold on our filter section, and we also have the gold on our knobs at the top as well. So overall, this controller really takes it up to another notch as far as the style, but more importantly, functionality as well with this crossfader and our volume faders. Also with the Premium T7, you have the choice to use these thicker slip mats here, which I have displayed here. I personally really like the thicker ones. It just gives me a better feel and more control when I'm actually scratching, but you also have these thinner slip mats as well. So definitely 100% up to you. So once you have those on, all you have to do from there is essentially just place your vinyl right on top. All you do is give it a little push right in the middle. Now, this is a custom white vinyl, of course, with my Liftoff logo. However, you will receive this Hercules vinyl right here with the Hercules logo right at the top. And then we have our digital core analog roots. So with that said, now let's hop right into lesson number 1. Now, when it comes to scratching, 2 of the most important things I think are going to be your hand control and your intentionality. That means when you're scratching, you don't want to kind of just be doing random things and hoping it works. You want to be extremely intentional and understand exactly what you're doing. So the first thing we're going to worry about in this first lesson is not the crossfader whatsoever, but really understanding our hand positioning and our hand control and really knocking out this baby scratch as well as some other simple scratches. So first, let's take a look at what the baby scratch looks like. For this series, I'll be using the Serato DJ Lite software, but you can also use Djuced, which is Hercules' native software as well. Now on my right deck, I went ahead and loaded up Windy by J Crate. Now we're also going to have this playing as well, and we're just going to pull back till we're at the very beginning of this sound. I'm also going to make sure my crossfader is open so I can hear the sound as well. Now, for this baby scratch, it's going to be really simple. All we're going to do is we're going to push forward like this, and then we're going to pull back, just like that. Now we can do this slowly. We can do it medium speed, or we can do this quickly as well. Now for hand positioning, I like to start right at 9 o'clock. For you, you might want to go up to 10 o'clock or you may want to come down to 8 o'clock. Definitely feel what's most comfortable for you. So especially when you're practicing those baby scratches in the beginning, just see as you're going forward and backwards, just see what feels most comfortable for you. And one more thing to actually note when you are doing this baby scratch, make sure that you're starting behind this sound here. So again, crossfader in the middle, make sure that you have this little space behind the sound and you're pushing into the sound like this. And then when you pull back, you're coming all the way off the sound. So you don't want to be doing this. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be going fully in and then coming all the way out. So that is the baby scratch. Now make sure you're comfortable with that, doing it at very slow BPMs, maybe around 70 to 75 BPM, then move it up to 80 to 90 to 100. And once you're comfortable doing that, then you can move on to the next section. So that's one way to really practice the baby scratch. As you can see there, sometimes I'm going slowly, other times I'm going kind of at a medium speed, and then I'm going at a fast speed as well. So this is the perfect time to just show you a beginner lesson in music theory. So essentially, if we're going to count one bar, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to represent 4 quarter notes. So one bar, we have 4 quarter notes, which are also beats as well. So 4 beats are going to be in one bar. Now, if we want to go a little bit more in depth, we can also count ands. Now, those are going to be eighth notes. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, those are our beats or our quarter notes. And then if we say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, those ands are going to be our eighth note. So we can also count that way as well. Now taking it one more step, we can also count 16th notes as well. So that's going to be 1 E and a 2. So that E and that 1 E and that E and the those are going to represent 16th notes. Now this is important because when you get to really, really complex scratches, they may start on an E, an and, or you may just have a technique where you have to do it on those particular counts, okay? However, for this lesson and probably for lesson number 2 as well, we're gonna just stick to quarter note and eighth note. So again, that's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, once we get there, that's gonna be our first bar. Now, if we go to bar 2, we're gonna now have 2 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then we have bar 3, 3 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then we start over with 1. So that was 4 bars, 16 beats total, and that's also going to be considered a phrase, okay? So that's a 4-bar phrase. Now you could also have an 8-bar phrase, technically. You can have a 16-bar phrase, technically. However, we're just gonna pretty much be focusing on 4-bar phrases here. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. Again, with that, we're counting quarter note and we're counting our eighth notes as well. So that's your beginner lesson in theory, and you'll see why it's important to know that as we continue through this series. 1, 2, 3, 4. That will be practicing on quarter notes. Now, if I said I want you to do a baby scratch on the quarter notes and the eighth notes, it will look like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, so right there, you can see the difference between doing them on the quarter note, so just doing 4 baby scratches, or doing 8, where we're actually doing them on the eighth notes as well. So again, that will play a very important part as we go through this series. Now, one more thing I always want you to practice when you're doing these scratches is when you get to the end of a pattern or whatever you're practicing, you always want to release as well, because releasing your vinyl, that's going to be extremely important because you're going to want that timing to be as close to perfect as possible. Of course, this takes time, but as you continue to practice, you'll get better and better. So a release, other known as kind of like a forward scratch. There's a few different names. You can say it's a release, you can say it's a drop, you can say a forward scratch, but essentially all you're doing is this. So another important thing you want to practice is dropping on beat. So if you're going to practice dropping on beat, this is what that looks like. So as you can see there, I'm trying to be as perfect as possible after I do those baby scratches when you hear that kick. So if you're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and drop, you want, when you're dropping that track or you're dropping your vinyl there, you want it to be as closely aligned as whatever beat you're dropping for the track that's actually playing. So definitely practice your releases or your drops as much as possible whenever you're scratching as well. So now let's look at a few different ways we can use this baby scratch. Now, essentially you can do 2 really quick baby scratches, which is going to look like this. Now with these 2 fast baby scratches, you want this just to represent an 8th note. So the count of an 8th note. So if you have a baby on 1 like this, 1, then the 2 fast babies is going to be on the and 2. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and drop. Okay, so to practice that, we can do just like this. So that's another way you can practice using the baby scratch with that 1 baby scratch and then the 2 quick baby scratches back to the baby scratch. And then always remember you're practicing that drop as well. So now let's look at a few other ways we can use the baby scratch around some other simple techniques as well. So with that technique there, essentially I started by pushing into my vinyl slowly first. That's technically going to be a forward drag. So all we're going to do here is we're going to push forward slowly. Then we're going to pull back quickly. Then I'm just going to do 2 baby scratches and then drop. So essentially we can take that right there and we can also add that into some of the things that we learned earlier, which could look like this. So that's a quick example of how you can use that baby scratch surrounding that drag as well as that pullback to, again, create a really, really simple scratch pattern. So scratch pattern, that's a new word here. So if I said do a 1 bar scratch pattern, again, remember that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 beats in 1 bar, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Again, same exact thing, just count it with the 8th notes. Again, that's 1 bar. So if I said, let's do a 1 bar scratch pattern where we're going to do a baby scratch, then we're going to have our 2 quick baby scratches, a baby scratch, 2 quick baby scratches, a forward drag, pull back, and then a baby scratch, and then the 2 quick baby scratches, and then drop. That can all be put into 1 bar. So let's go ahead and count that out now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So there's your first scratch pattern that you have learned in this scratch series. Again, let's do that one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and drop. Now, everything that you've just learned in this lesson, as far as the baby scratch, as far as the forward drag and that pullback, as well as releasing or dropping right on beat, it's going to be so important before you introduce the crossfader, because all of the hand motions, the control that you want to have, everything is going to be completely the same essentially when you move on to more advanced scratch techniques. The only thing that you're doing is you're introducing the crossfader to, of course, make different cuts and create different sounds, essentially based on, do you want a longer sound? Do you want a shorter sound? That's all you're doing with the crossfader. However, like I said, the hand motions, the position, the hand position, everything is going to be the exact same for the most part that you've learned right here. So before you move on to lesson number 2, make sure that you continue to practice this baby scratch, continue to practice that forward drag as well as that pullback. Try to make as many scratch patterns as you can. So try a 1-bar scratch pattern, try to make a 2-bar scratch pattern. You can even do shorter scratch patterns than that. Just play around, be creative, but just make sure, again, before you move on, really perfect all of the fundamentals that I've showed you in this particular scratch lesson before you move on. So that's gonna wrap up this lesson. Now in lesson number 2, we're then going to dive into actually using the crossfader, and we're gonna start with the chirp scratch. So before you move on, practice here, then I'll see you in the next lesson.